Good Monday afternoon, and thanks for being with us on Kare 11 News Now. I'm Rena Sargentopoulos. Just in this afternoon, the Trump administration is suing Minnesota and our state's high school sports league over transgender athletes in girls' sports. Attorney General Pam Bondi announcing the suit today on social media. In that lawsuit, the Justice Department alleges the Minnesota Department of Education and Minnesota State High School League are violating Title IX. That's the federal law against sex discrimination in education programs that receive federal money. Maine and California are facing similar lawsuits from the administration. This afternoon, 2 adults are dead and a 13-year-old is fighting for her life after a crash in northern Minnesota. It happened last night on Highway 71 near Albert Avenue South in Park Rapids. It's about 3 hours north of Minneapolis. Officials say a woman and the 13-year-old were traveling south on 71 when a man driving a Ford F-150 crossed the center line, colliding with them head-on. Officials do suspect alcohol was involved. The man had a 5-year-old passenger. That child is expected to be okay. Some relief this afternoon for TSA agents. The agency is saying most of its workers got paid today for at least 2 paychecks that were missed as the Homeland Security shutdown drags on. This comes days after President Trump signed an executive order to pay TSA workers using funds from his 2025 tax bill to cover 43 days of no pay. But the former agency administrator says travelers likely will not see immediate relief in those long lines. Meanwhile, the shutdown is guaranteed to last at least another 2 weeks since lawmakers left for recess without reaching a concrete deal on funding for Homeland Security. This week, the Supreme Court will hear a case on birthright citizenship. This comes as President Trump is attempting to change the policy with an executive order. That order seeks to remove citizenship rights from babies who are born in the United States to undocumented immigrants. This goes in contradiction to the 14th Amendment, which guarantees that any person born or naturalized in the United States is a U.S. citizen. President Trump says he's considering seizing Kare Island, a key oil terminal responsible for 90% of Iran's oil exports. In an interview with the Financial Times released today, the president said his favorite thing would be taking Iran's oil. Meanwhile, thousands more U.S. troops are headed to the Middle East. NBC's Ralph Sanchez reports from Qatar.
As more and more U.S. troops arrive here in the Middle East, President Trump is both simultaneously threatening a ground offensive against Iran and talking up the prospects of negotiations to end the war. 3,500 more U.S. Marines and sailors arriving in the region aboard the USS Tripoli, an amphibious assault ship. That's according to Central Command. It comes as President Trump tells the Financial Times newspaper that he is considering seizing Kare Island, that is Iran's key oil export terminal in the Persian Gulf. He has said that the U.S. might just take Iran's oil. And then at the same time, he says that negotiations are making progress with Iran. He says the Iranians, in his words, have allowed a number of oil tankers to pass through the Strait of Hormuz as a sign of goodwill. From the Iranian side, they say that the president's talk about negotiations is just his way of managing the oil markets, trying to keep the price of oil from surging too high. They are not giving any indication of backing down, continuing to fire against their neighbors. And the Speaker of the Iranian parliament, who is one of the few senior surviving members of the Iranian regime, says his country would welcome a U.S. ground invasion because, in his words, it would give the opportunity for Iranian forces to set American troops on fire. Ralph Sanchez, NBC News, Doha, Qatar.
This afternoon, oil prices are rising after a weekend of turmoil in the Middle East as Iran-backed Houthi militants launched ballistic missiles at Israel and additional U.S. troops were deployed to the region. And today, crude oil surging to nearly $116 a barrel, reaching the highest level since the U.S. and Israeli joint attack on Iran. Taking a look at the gas prices right now, the national average is nearing $4 this afternoon as Iran continues to limit oil movement through the Strait of Hormuz. It is currently standing at $3.99 nationally. In Minnesota, the average price fell slightly from last week and stands at $3.41 per gallon. A defendant in the Feeding Our Future scandal is now expected to spend the next year in prison. In court in the last couple of hours, Abdul Abakar Ali apologized, saying he'll try to make things right. Ali admitted to using a shell company under the sponsorship of the Feeding Our Future to commit $3 million in fraud. The judge gave him a lesser sentence because he pleaded guilty so early and helped the government by testifying in other cases. Well, take a look at this. Nearly 100,000 Minnesotans marching to the state capitol for the No Kings rally this weekend. Organizers say nearly 80 million people joined nationwide. The next No Kings event is already set for Friday, May 1st. Organizers are calling for a nationwide day of action, meaning no work, no school, and no shopping. This weekend's rally set records for the largest one-day nonviolent protest in American history. And demonstrators tell us the rally was all about unity.
You see other people, you're not alone. They're empathetic and to your causes and your beliefs, and they care about the things that you value and care about. So it makes you feel good to be part of it.
It could help, it may not help.
But it feels good.
Yeah, it feels good to do this, yeah.
And the demonstrations didn't stop there. Yesterday, thousands of Christians headed to the state capitol to speak out against the Trump administration. While that rally was a fraction of the size of the No Kings rally at the Capitol on Saturday, attendees say their passion was just as strong.
What our current federal government's objective is in showing that kind of chaos and cruelty and harm is so counter to what we're called to do as Christians. In our scriptures, we are called to welcome the stranger, and it literally is about welcoming the foreigner.
Organizers tell us similar rallies were held in 17 other states. If you're heading to St. Louis Park on 394 today, you might need to change your route. MnDOT says it began work earlier today on the eastbound ramp to Xenia Avenue and Park Place. It will be closed through September, but that's not the only project to start across the Twin Cities metro area. Heidi Wigdahl has more on what to expect over the next several months.
Spring is here, and warmer weather means more work on the roads. MnDOT will start construction in April on Highway 12 between Wayzata and Minnetonka. The project includes rebuilding a stretch of road originally built in 1970 near downtown Wayzata between Shoreline Drive and Central Avenue North. Between Central and 494 in Minnetonka, crews will be repaving the highway, replacing lighting, and making accessibility improvements. Ramps will also get repaired. The most immediate impact to drivers is starting in early to mid-April, when Highway 12 will be reduced to 2 lanes in both directions between Shoreline Drive and Central Avenue. The more than $50 million project wraps up in November.
Meanwhile, in Blaine, a $195 million project will be improving safety along Highway 65. According to MnDOT, construction starts in April. This is a bird's eye view of what it will look like. Crews will be reconstructing 65 as a freeway design with interchanges between 97th Avenue and 125th. The project is expected to take 4 years to complete.
South of Blaine, a major construction project will also begin on Highway 280. MnDOT is making significant improvements on the highway from 94 in St. Paul to 35W in Roseville. Road, lane, and ramp closures start Monday, April 13th. Highway 280 will be completely closed, starting first with northbound traffic on April 13th, then southbound traffic closing later in the month. But state fair goers, don't worry. MnDOT says the highway will reopen before the beginning of the Great Minnesota Get-Together. However, after, lane and ramp closures are expected through the fall, with more work being done in 2028. Heidi Wigdahl, Kare 11 News.
New today, Air Canada announcing its CEO is set to retire later this year after leading the company for more than 2 decades. The decision came amid increasing criticism directed at the CEO for English-only condolences that followed Air Canada's deadly crash in New York. Michael Rousseau has long faced scrutiny for not speaking French, despite leading the company based in French-speaking Quebec. But the calls for his resignation started pouring in after sending a video message in English only following the Air Canada jet crash that killed 2 pilots, one of whom was a French-speaking Canadian. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney said the CEO's message showed, quote, a lack of compassion and judgment. The company did say that a succession plan for Rousseau's departure has been in the works for more than 2 years. Well, there is a growing controversy right now in Hennepin County, where at a recent meeting, a county commissioner openly questioned the sheriff department's role in public safety, saying she is not willing to fund the sheriff to provide public safety for Hennepin County. Those comments so concerning that more than 40 police chiefs and mayors penned this letter to the county, stressing the important role the department plays in public safety. Our Lou Ragoose picks it up from there.
I want us to look and reconsider the community ambitions for the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office when it is not funded to provide public safety for Hennepin County.
One discussion at this week's Hennepin County Board meeting was the budget for the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, which ran over by $11 million last year.
That's public safety.
Commissioner Heather Edelson spoke up to defend the sheriff.
Public safety is one of the number one things the constituents in my community care about. So it is not all on the sheriff for having a budget that goes above, because the needs change.
To which Commissioner Marion Green responded that she plans to reread the law that establishes the role of the sheriff's office.
Because I know something that I've heard repeatedly over the last 12 years of service is that the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office is not actually responsible for public safety on the streets. That is the responsibility of police departments.
Green said her understanding is that the sheriff is supposed to run the jail, transport inmates to court, provide water patrol, and policing for small towns that don't have their own police.
Minnesota Statute 38703.
Even after Edelson read straight from the law what else the sheriff is required to do, Green said this.
I'm going to, reveal my cards. I'm not willing to fund the sheriff to provide public safety for Hennepin County. I don't think that can be something that office can take on and do well.
42 police chiefs and mayors in Hennepin County signed a letter saying that the sheriff in fact, does do that well.
The services that they provide supplement everything that we do in law enforcement, and there's no way that we could do our jobs effectively if we didn't have them as a partner.
Hennepin County Sheriff Dewana Witt in a statement called Commissioner Green's statements concerning, saying the sheriff's role in public safety is not optional and is written into law. Commissioner Green would not answer questions about her statements or explain her position on the sheriff's role in Hennepin County. Today, a new stunning video from Australia that you have to see to believe. Take a look at this. This is not a filter. This eerie shade of deep red is what it actually looked like in Western Australia on Friday ahead of a tropical cyclone. Scientists say the soil there undergoes a weathering process of oxidation, causing rocks to rust, giving them a red color. They eventually weaken and then break apart. Experts say the storm's winds likely scattered those rock dusts, causing this red sky. Well, an important recall today as we get ready for grill season. A grill brush recall is expanding to include 10 million products due to serious health risks. These are the impacted products from NextGrill. They were sold at Home Depot from 2015 until this year. According to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, those bristles may break off and stick to your food or the grill. There are 5 reports of people getting sick from this. If you have the brush, you should contact the company for a refund. Stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.